fresh from the sewer. And into your Nintendo Entertainment System comes Ultra's version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, ridding the world of rival robots, wretched ruffians, and the evil Foot Clan forever. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They're out of the sewers and available where Ultra games are sold.
Hi everyone, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of Player One Start. Today we're going to talk about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Trilogy on the NES. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Let's dive into some gameplay. As with most games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a side-scrolling platform game. It was developed by Konami, but released under their Ultra Games brand so that they could release more games than Nintendo would originally allow. It first hit stores in North America in June of 1989 alongside the arcade game also developed by Konami. The game involves the Ninja Turtles, Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello, on a mission to retrieve the Life Transformer gun from Shredder. This is a device that could restore their sensei, Splinter, back to his human form. So this game is a single-player action game. The player starts as Leonardo, but you can switch to any other turtle at any time by pressing the start button to access the information screen. The information screen also shows each turtle's health, as well as whatever special weapon he has obtained, a map grid of the current area, and messages from either Splinter or April. So as you start out, the player navigates the mission map in an overhead view as they travel to doors, manhole covers, or other entrances to side-scrolling interior levels. In the overhead view, the player can move in all four directions and use their primary weapon in a single type of attack. As the game progresses, more and more obstacles and enemies appear in the overhead maps. In the side-scrolling levels, turtles can jump, crouch, and attack with their weapon, or use one of the alternate weapons they pick up along the way. In some levels, there is a specific objective, such as obtaining an item or defeating a boss. However, in most levels, the goal is to reach the exit and return to the overhead map in order to continue. Their first objective is to rescue their reporter friend April O'Neil, who is being held captive by Bebop and Rocksteady somewhere in the city. After rescuing April, the turtles must swim underwater to disarm a series of bombs and destroy a dam. Each turtle's unique primary weapon has a different speed, power, and reach. When the player's character runs out of health, the player must change to one of the remaining turtles. The player loses the game when all four turtles have been captured. Then they must rescue Splinter from the Mecha Turtle, destroy a giant mouser, and find the Technodrome and eventually defeat Shredder. This game was released for the Famicom in Japan a few months before the American NES version, under a title which roughly translates to Legend of the Radical Ninja Turtles. This predated the Japanese dub of both the first film and the animated series. This game was also ported to various home computers in 1990, including the Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, Atari ST, and the Amiga. This game was also ported to DOS, however this version is very infamous because it contains a gap that is impossible to cross without cheating. This leads me to some issues with the NES port. The jumping, to me, I find kind of hard. It requires precise timing that takes a lot of time to go through, and oftentimes if you miss the jump, you have to go back through the entire stage and try again. I don't know how many times my life bar was depleted because I had to keep backtracking through a stage after missing a jump. Take for this, for example. Alright, let's... Okay, here we go. Alright, I think I got it this time, and... Oh, come on! Why is there an enemy there? Alright, we're gonna... Alright. Yeah, I got you this time. Alright, let's go. So overall, I would rate the first entry in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games as a kind of an average platformer. Yeah, it has some quirks and flaws, but it's definitely playable. If you're a fan of the series, you'll definitely enjoy the game. Alright, now let's move on to what is probably the most popular game on the NES, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
Ultra's improved your favorite arcade game. First, we added 2 new levels, then packed it with bigger, stronger enemies, and a ton of extra foot soldiers. We made one more small adjustment. Introducing the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, today's biggest hit, for your NES.
The arcade game was originally released at the same time as the NES port by Konami/Ultra. It eventually made its way to the NES in 1990, titled Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game. This version also featured notable product placement advertising, as Pizza Hut logos were seen all around the game. The rear cover of the instruction manual provided a coupon for 1 free personal pan pizza at Pizza Hut with an expiration date of December 31st, 1991. Regardless, I decided to order mine now anyway. And something slightly larger than a personal pan. While I wait for that to be delivered, I decided to go ahead and keep playing. The gameplay is completely different from the first version. There are no overhead levels, and the gameplay style is mostly linear. To begin the game, the player chooses one of the 4 Ninja Turtles. Instead of being able to change on the fly, you don't have to wait until you die before you can select a different turtle. Looking back at this game years later, it's easy to see how this game is pushing the NES to its graphical limits. Most notably, you'll notice that some of the sprites will fade in and out, and that's because there are too many sprites on screen. So a trick that programmers used to use, where they would show one sprite in one frame and another sprite in another, so that's where you get some flickering in there. Sometimes it makes my character disappear on my capture device, but this doesn't happen when you're seeing it in person. That said, the art direction and style of this game still hold up very well today, and I still find this game fun to come back to. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of the other stages. The NES version includes 2 new levels, the first part of Scene 3 and all of Scene 6, which feature new enemy characters, including 2 new bosses. Most of the original stages from the arcade game were extended as well. Alright, so I really enjoy this game, and I think it is leaps and bounds better than the first one. One thing I can say that is different than the first one is that this game is definitely best when played with 2 players. And that goes for the actual arcade game as well. Now, even though this game is not unique in the fact that it's a, side-scroller beat-em-up game in the style of Double Dragon, I think they take that formula and adapt it very well for fans of the show. So, before we move on to the next game, I should note that this game came out after the Super Nintendo did. And in North America, if you are a fan of the original Nintendo, your fandom really stopped when the Super Nintendo came out. Me being the youngest in my family, I was used to hand-me-downs, and one of the things that I got as a hand-me-down was the original Nintendo. But when the Super Nintendo came out, the Nintendo wasn't instantly a classic and retro and things that people enjoy playing today. You thought it was old, childish, and always wanted to have the latest and greatest console. And this was fueled, if not caused by, the 16-bit wars that were going on between Sega and Nintendo. Kids felt like they had to play on the latest and most advanced console, and things that were older were considered obsolete. So when the Super Nintendo was released, the Nintendo wasn't really seen as, this great all-time console that is retro and people want to collect this someday. It was really considered garbage. So with that in mind, when Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project came out, it came out at a time where the Nintendo was garbage, nobody wanted to play it, and so very few people ended up playing it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, is another side-scrolling beat-em-up game released by Konami. It is the only one in North America released by Konami rather than their Ultra Games brand. The gameplay mechanics are very similar to the first game. You can play as one player or two players, and it is best played as two players. You will choose between the four turtles, each wielding their signature weapon, and then you're off. One thing I can say is a much welcomed improvement is a new attack move in which you can stab the enemy with your weapon and throw them over your shoulder, most likely resulting in the death of the enemy. This is also more powerful but rewards less points, so you have to balance out using this attack with your other attacks. The game is composed of 8 total levels, spanning from the beaches of Florida to the floating island of Manhattan to the Technodrome. At the end, you will confront Shredder in his lair, and finally to Krang's spaceship. The game's regular enemies include a variety of foot soldiers, as well as giant Mousers and stone warriors. The game's bosses include villains from the cartoon series. The controls are mostly unchanged from the second game, with one attack button and one jump button. Another new move is that each turtle now has a different special attack that is performed by pressing the A and B buttons simultaneously. Every time the player performs this attack, a portion of their energy will be lost, unless of course they're on their last life bar. Alright, so I think that the third one is by far the best in the series. I think that it takes everything that made number 2 great and adds on to it a little bit more. They did a lot of refined tweaks, and yes, they didn't really break the mold, but I think that they just continued improving on the established formula. Now, in some ways, I see the next entry on the Super Nintendo as a step backwards, but that game was good for a lot of other reasons, so I can't really fault that too much for not wanting to keep advancing the formula. So if I were to rank the games in order, it would be 3, 2, then 1. And again, if you have not played the third game in the series, please go back and play it, and it'll definitely be a hidden gem that you would have wondered where it's been all your life. Alright, well that about wraps it up for this video. As always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned because I have more content coming. I'll see you guys next time. Hi everyone, Tyler from Player One Start here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please consider leaving a like and a comment below. Let me know what you liked about the video, let me know what you'd like to see in the future. If you'd like to see more of what I've already done, there should be a couple of hand-picked suggestions showing up right here and here. And if you'd like to be notified when I post new content, go ahead and click this big old subscribe button. I may or may not giggle like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Is that enough? Am I done? Video's still going? Okay, now we're done.